Sienna God, hello all. Oshta Sahiya, good evening and Wado, thank you for watching. So this is day 9 of reading Hollywood Babylon by Kenneth Angers. I'm going to read the beginning of the paragraph again because there's an issue with my truck's radio and the Bluetooth and that. And I could have just killed the Bluetooth on here. I didn't think about it. So we're in it now. I'm not going to start it over. Gentleman Jim, released shortly after, turned out to be one of Flynn's finest vehicles, pleasing critics and public alike. This movie star scandal, which only 10 years previously would have surely meant career death, canceled contracts, and public dishonor. Even if the main character had been acquitted, did not work out that way this time. Okay. Quote-unquote morality had shifted. Identifying fans liked the idea of being, quote-unquote, in like Flynn, and turned out in droves for the movie. That's kind of weird how they worded that. Identifying fans. Anyway, quote-unquote morality had evolved so much by these wartime years that the Flynn case would never have been brought to court had it not been for concealed pressure, not pressure from the public. The papers could not go into the underside of the affair at the time, but it soon became apparent to everyone involved to Flynn, Geisler, Geisler, and Warner Brothers that the persecution of Flynn was traceable to corrupt Los Angeles politicians who had decided that the studios, after a shaky period during the Depression, were now making a fortune with wartime escapist entertainment movies and were not, it seemed to them, coming across with juicy enough quote-unquote kickbacks. These payoffs had been habitually turned over to the quote-unquote bosses who would make sure that the police got its cut of the take. They in turn protected the studios by dropping charges in case stars got into any sort of trouble. The Flynn Mountain would have remained a molehill, except that shortly before it broke, some changes had been made in the chain of command at LA City Hall. When Jack Warner had failed to cough up the new bosses, the first rape charge against Flynn had been brought up as a warning. When that could not be substantiated, the second Chippie, Chippie, was pushed forward by the cops to chirp her year-old charges. Fortunately for Flynn, the jury, in parentheses, Geisler, had made sure that 9 of the 12 were women, close parentheses, did not buy the police's trumped-up case, and Errol Flynn was free to delight his fans with more good flicks and to enjoy 20 more years of carousing, C-A-R-O-U-S-I-N-G. Here's a picture. This is Peggy, Flynn, and Betty in court. And then this one says Errol. It says ladies' man at sea. And then this is Chaplin and Joan Barry in court, B-A-R-R-Y, no love lost. Who's daddy? Sugar daddy is what it says. Jerry Geisler was soon to receive another call, a 54-year-old millionaire in trouble with a girl. His name was Charles Spencer Chaplin. The opening scene of what was to become a long drawn-out courtroom drama took place under the auspices of another millionaire, J. Paul Getty, Getty. It all began when Miss Plain Joan Barry arrived in Hollywood in 1940, expecting to crash the movies. Her name did make headlines in 1943 and 1944, not for any on-screen ability, but because she was still expecting and had named Charlie Chaplin as a father. She had floated around town, taking odd jobs, often as a waitress. One day, she was invited to join a party of girls who were going down to Mexico for an inauguration of oil man Getty's Avila Camacho. Avila? A-V-I-L-A. There, she met Tim Durant, an agent for United Artists, who introduced her to Chaplin, then looking for a female lead for Shadow and Substance, a film he was planning. Chaplin told the press he had discovered a new Maude Adams, M-A-U-D-E, and he signed Barry up for a $75 a week contract. While being groomed for the role, the budding star underwent 2 abortions. My God. By the following year, in October 1942, Chaplin's dissatisfaction with her, both personal and professional, seemed complete. Her salary was reduced to $25. The girl turned up at his house at Christmas, brandishing a gun she had bought at a pawn shop. Whoa. The master actor and director found these histrionics an erotic turn-on. He dispensed with the pistol and balled his deranged, estranged protege on a bearskin rug in front of a glowing fireplace. I wonder, I'm just going to say, I've got to look it up, but I don't want my algorithms messed up. Bald. Okay, anyway. When she turned up again to make a scene a few days later, the great director called the police, who ordered her to leave. Let me see if I missed a photo, because I was just so whatever. Yeah, no, but this is what it says. I'm guessing it says chaplain jury hears doctors say blood test rule out Charlie. And then it says something chaplain judge rules blood test not binding. So I wonder if, like, with all the like DNA stuff now and everything, if any of those family members tested, you know, because he was like really lucrative. I mean, I don't know if his money lasted, but I'm just saying. And but also to be able to say that that was your blood relative. But anyway, when she turned up again to make a scene, oh wait, bearskin rug in front of glowing fireplace. When she turned up again to make a scene a few days later, the great director called the police, who ordered her to leave town. A few months later, she was discovered climbing into a window at Chaplin's house and given 30 days in jail. Good Lord. Then the storm broke, thanks to the power of one of Chaplin's most bitter enemies, Hedda Hopper and Luella Parsons. Two battle axe columnists were as famous in their heyday as Gorgeous Garbo or Marlene and the other stars whose lives they wrote about. They were, however, much more powerful and had set themselves up as the arbiters of the film colony's moral life. Through their syndicated columns, they reached 75 million readers and exerted an influence difficult to imagine today in a more liberated society, which no longer considers a revelation that a married star has been seen out with a young chorus girl as news on a par with the explosion of the first atom bomb. Hedda, Hedda in particular, had for many years treated Chaplin as an enemy of society. Her patriotic hackles up, she denounced him for having arrived a poor unknown in the United States, making a fortune here, and then never becoming an American citizen. One morning, while Hedda was relieving herself of the day's tittle tattle, jeepers. I was thinking, gosh, my husband's like ringtone is super loud. He's in the garage. Anyway, tittle tattled to her secretary, a hysterical redhead barged in and blurted out that she was bearing Charlie Chaplin's illegitimate child and had been thrown out by him. This was the biggest grist that had ever hit Hedda's mill. Joan said she had come to her because she had read one of her columns in which Hedda had warned of the fate awaiting any girl foolish enough to accept a position as a Chaplin protege. So that, I mean, I took that as everybody knew that he wasn't on the up and up. You know what I mean? He had a different agenda, right? She missed that memo. Hedda's next column spewed forth the news as a warning to other film folk involved in quote-unquote dubious relationships. Plain Jones' pregnancy rapidly stirred up a bitchy media tug-of-war. Charlie postponed his marriage to Una O'Neill because of Hedda's story as revenge on Hedda. When he later married Una, he gave the scoop to quote-unquote Lolly in order to rub salt into Hedda's acid tongue. Hardly a day went by without a blast from Hopper at Charlie. She let fly rumors that Chaplin had insulted the press at his wedding, calling them quote-unquote morons. And in parentheses, it says untrue, close parentheses, that Shadow and Substance would be canceled, that the forthcoming paternity trial would be the biggest Hollywood circus in years. When the suit was filed, Chaplin denied that he had fathered the child, but agreed to submit to a blood test. He paid all of Barry's medical expenses, gave her $2,500 and $100 a week as settlement. Chaplin was then indicted by a federal grand jury on 4 counts. The FBI entered the case. Chaplin was photographed being fingerprinted. Barry's daughter was born on October 2nd, 1943. The decision was a model of perplexity. Although blood tests proved that Chaplin was not the girl's father, the jury, despite all Geisler's efforts, decided against him and ordered him to support the child. It is interesting to note that while Luella published the results of the blood test, Hedda was on the spot covering the trial, but made no mention of them. More fodder was furnished Chaplin's right-wing enemies when during the trial, a Chaplin festival was launched in Moscow. The Russians opened the festival by blaming Chaplin's recent troubles on the Trotskyites, Trotskyites. They were to blame, and with them, the quote-unquote mudslingers of the Hearst and McCormick tabloid press, end quote. This was a unique event, the only time in recorded history when the Kremlin had stuck its two Kopecks, K-O-P-E-C-K-S, into a Hollywood sex scandal. Hedda continued needling Chaplin for the rest of her life, but towards the end of her career, her opinions and those of her rival sister and twaddle, Lolly Parsons, were fortunately no longer received by a more sophisticated American public as engraved footnotes to the Ten Commandments. Genius is often an infinite capacity for survival. Chaplin survived his trials and other tribulations and went on to make 4 films, one of which, Monsieur Verdot, Verdaux, although financially a disaster, in parentheses, it was banned in many places in the United States, close parentheses, incorporated a great deal of bitterness. The result was a masterpiece, one of the finest films ever made. It will be seen and admired long after the Heddas and Luellas are forgotten. Chaplin, Joan, and daughter in court. You know, I wonder if that was actually true, or if like somebody was paid to say, oh, these aren't the test results. Like they like use their own blood or something instead. Anyway, daughter of Fury, Frances Saint. So this is Frances Farmer, individualist. The spectacular crack-up of the beautiful, sensitive, and highly strung actress, Frances Farmer supplied another real-life movie-land drama, which in 1943 competed with the Chaplin Barry Fracas, and a little thing like World War II for headlines and papers throughout the country. In 1935, after she had won a magazine popularity contest, Paramount snapped up the quote-unquote new Garbo for a 7-year contract. Frances, who considered herself a serious actress and dreamed of appearing in Chekhov, Chekhov, and the classics, in parentheses, she later did work for a spell with the Group Theater in New York, starring in Golden Boy and The Fifth Column, working with Elia, Elia Kazan, and Clifford Odets, O-D-E-T-S, close parentheses, found herself cast by the studio opposite Bing Crosby in Rhythm on the Range, side by side with Martha Raye and Bob Burns and his bazooka. She was loaned out to the Goldwyn, in parentheses, Paramount made a large profit on such loanouts, not a penny of it going to Frances. What? Close parentheses. Do they still do that? That totally makes me think of the, like the soccer players and stuff. I'm sure it happens like with other sports as well, but I never even thought to think of actors and actresses or people just in the entertainment industry in general. But I mean, it would make sense, right? Because there's some contracts like with those specific companies. But in athletic loanouts and things, I know that the teams that loan them out make the money. But like literally, the players do too, because otherwise they don't get paid, right? I mean, so they skirted her. What? Okay. I was gonna say that's insane, but you know what? Reading this book, nothing is insane with Hollywood and entertainment in general, right? My Lord. Okay, now I'm going to Frances for a costumer. For a costumer. C-O-S-T-U-M-E-R. Come and Get It. Then followed Son of Fury with Tyrone Power, Ebb Tide, E-B-B-T-I-D-E, with Ray Milland, The Toast of New York with Cary Grant, and her most curious film, Among the Living, with Albert Dekker, D-E-K-K-E-R. The would-be method actress was then thrust into South of Pago, P-A-G-O, with Joan Hall. Frances won no more popularity contests while in Southern California, a resolute individualist who refused to in quotes, go Hollywood, or quote unquote, go Hollywood. She was often quoted as saying she hated everything about the place except the money. Oh, I bet. She made an enemy of Zucker and other moguls. And when her time of trouble came in 1943, many felt it was a case of a smart aleck getting her deserved comeuppance. Excuse me. Her breakdown was triggered by a banal, B-A-N-A-L incident, an arrest for a minor traffic violation in Santa Monica the night of October 19th, 1942. Oh, I wonder if they set her up. Okay. Okay, so her breakdown was triggered by a banal incident, whatever that means, an arrest for minor traffic violation in Santa Monica the night of October 1942. She was charged with drunk driving without a license and with having her lights on in a dim out zone on the Pacific Coast Highway. Frances was a cop hater. From this moment on, the fuzz became her personal, externalized demons. She responded to the patrolman's arrogance and insults with equal hostility, and the shouting match ended with her being dragged off to the Santa Monica jail. In night court, she was sentenced to 180 days and put on probation. In parentheses, it says, if ever a damsel in distress needed the services of Jerry Geisler, farmer was she. Close parentheses. Huh. That makes me think of, like, she kind of favors Winona Ryder, but I'm just saying, you know, like when you hear of those people, just like, I was kind of wondering if they're doing it because they're trying to lash out at the system because they're stuck in this thing, this juggernaut of the entertainment industry that's asking so much of them for so little in comparison. And then they also do like whatever ritualistic things or whatever. It's kind of like you have to sleep your way to the top, and if you don't, then you're like blacklisted or whatever. But then it also makes me wonder if you're pushing against the narrative. You're like, yeah, no, I ain't gonna do that. Not spreading my legs to get the next movie or whatever. Y'all are crazy, y'all are nasty. And they're like, well, either you're gonna do this or you're not gonna work or whatever. I'm like, so what? Then they're crazy. They are under the influence of something, like they've got sleep exhaustion or no, they get admitted to a hospital and they're told, the public is told because of exhaustion, because of their tour or their whatever, their workload or whatever it is. But I'm just wondering if they're like doping them up or if they're like using scare tactics to try and make them conform or something. I'm not really sure. I don't know. There's a lot of questions. Not too long after, she was arrested at Hollywood's Knickerbocker Hotel for having failed to report to her parole officer. This came on the heels of a hysterical fling during which she had dislocated the studio hairdresser's jaw. Whoa. Lost her sweater in a boozy nightclub brawl and streaked topless through traffic down Sunset Strip. Jeepers. Man alive. Anyway, this is her, I guess, being hauled off. Not really sure. It says, after the rampage, reality in court. And then, like, sometimes I wonder if they, like, slip them drugs and whatnot to, like, make them act like that. So they're like, look, see? You know? I don't know. The police revved up her paranoia by loudly beating on her door, then entering with a pass key with gun and handcuffs at the ready. She hid in the bathroom. The cops broke down the bathroom door, and after a wild struggle, carted her off naked through Knickerbocker lobby. Oh my. At Hollywood Police Headquarters, the officers got a jolt when the quote-unquote new Garbo signed quote-unquote cocksucker as her occupation. In court for sentencing, she stared at the mob of photographers gathered around her and spat out, in quotes, rats, end quote. When the judge asked how she had lost her sweater in the nightclub brawl, she denied any knowledge of the affair. When His Honor asked her about the extent of her drinking, she replied, her voice rising, in quotes. We're just going to end it there, and I'll pick it back up. Then go hang, okay, you ain't a good chance. Okay, till we meet again. Love you, man.